Hey everyone. Alright, so in this video, I'm going to review Star Wars The Last Jedi. There's a lot of spoilers in this review, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, watch the movie and then come back and check out my review. So this is just a warning, there's a lot of spoilers. Now, first and foremost, I'm going to start off with the few things that I didn't like about the movie. And again, they're just little moments, but again, they were big enough that it sort of some of these really bothered me, okay? So the first thing was that whole exchange with Poe and Hawkes. At the very beginning of the film, can you hear me? He's on hold and he's pretending that he can't hear Hawkes. That whole exchange to me felt really, really corny, really out of place, and it felt, in my opinion, almost like a parody. It felt almost like something out of like Spaceballs. Okay, I saw the movie twice already, and both times I was like cringing. I really wish they wouldn't have added that in the movie. But look, it's maybe 15 or 20 seconds long or something. It doesn't last very long, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, it was a really bad joke, and it just didn't feel like it belonged in the movie. So that's one moment that I didn't care for. The second moment that I didn't care for was the Princess Leia scene where she gets blown out of the ship and she's floating through space. Okay, now that didn't bother me so much. The issue I had with the scene was her re-entry into the ship. Okay, she uses the Force, which is fine, but she uses the Force to kind of gain some energy, and then she floats back down to the ship. It's the way she does it that bothers me the most. The whole concept, I see where Rian Johnson was going with it, and I support that vision. It was just the execution of it. I really didn't like how she kind of does that whole Superman pose the whole way down. It was just pretty cheesy, and it sort of, in my opinion, kind of ruined that moment that could have been really special and really emotional, and turned it into almost like a parody or a gag. It just felt really silly. I much rather have had her float to the ship in a more natural manner. Maybe, she was already on her back. Use the Force and just stay on your back and float down, or something of that nature. Or maybe have her disappear and then reappear in the ship. Just something different than that Superman pose. It felt really off to me. And that's a shame, because I see where the director was going with it, and I think it could have worked if they just would have approached it a little differently. Okay, so those are my two biggest complaints about the movie. So overall, obviously, I loved 99% of this film. Now, a lot of people are complaining that Rian Johnson took all of the mysteries that J.J. Abrams set up, like the who are Rey's parents and Snoke, and he sort of destroyed all that. Okay, and went in a totally weird direction. Yeah, he did. He did destroy JJ's Mysteries, but I think it's a good thing, and I'll explain why. Force Awakens was a very safe movie. A lot of people, were saying that it felt like A New Hope, a retelling of A New Hope. It was very safe. Not a whole lot of risk-taking in that film at all. And that was the big criticism. So when JJ made that film, he set up a lot of mysteries, and who are Rey's parents. Well, the problem is that all these mysteries, even though they were technically mysteries, they were pointing the story in a predictable, pointing it down a predictable route. Okay, so there's all this hubbub about Rey's parents, which, yeah, they don't announce Rey's parents in The Force Awakens, but it's implied, heavily implied, that they must be something special, must be a Skywalker, must be Kenobi, So it was sending the saga down a predictable route of yet another Skywalker, with all these enormous powers. It was predictable. It was setting it down that predictable route. Same with Snoke. JJ set up Snoke to be the new Emperor, and for Kylo to be the new Vader. So it was going down that predictable route again. So all of these mysteries that JJ set up were really just sort of guiding that whole trilogy down a very predictable route. So what Rian Johnson did was he took that predictable route and he just blew it up. Okay, he killed Snoke. Okay, so now there's a power vacuum in the First Order. So we're not going to have that same dynamic like with the Emperor and Vader. We're going to have a completely different dynamic now where Kylo and Hux are battling out for power. There's that power vacuum. That's interesting. That's very cool. That's something that we haven't seen in Star Wars yet. Okay, if I want Darth Vader and the Emperor, I'd watch the original trilogy. I don't want another Vader and Emperor in this new sequel trilogy. I want something different. So I'm really happy that Rian Johnson killed Snoke, and now we have something completely different, a whole new dynamic for this trilogy. It was a very positive thing, in my opinion. Even though I love Snoke as a character, I think he's really cool, but Rian Johnson made the right decision by killing him off. He really did. Rey's parents, the same thing. I don't want her to be a Skywalker. I don't want her to just be another Luke or, another Anakin or whatever. I want her to be different. And Rian Johnson, instead of going for the bait and the low-hanging fruit and deciding to, make her a Skywalker or make her a Kenobi, he made her basically nobody who just has the Force. And I love that. It's different. So look, they took a lot of risks with The Last Jedi. Some paid off, some didn't. Okay? But I think it's very important that Star Wars takes risks. Okay? The worst thing that Star Wars can do is play it safe. Because you run the risk of it going into a rut where everything becomes very predictable, and essentially you're just retelling the same story over and over again with a different cast and different characters. You don't want that. Rian Johnson, what he did with this movie, and I know a lot of fans are upset over it, but what he did with this movie is he saved the franchise from becoming stale. He injected some a shot in the arm for Star Wars and is forcing it into a whole new direction. And that's a positive thing. And I know a lot of fans, with a lot of nostalgia are going to fight this because it's change and it's different and it's scary, but it needed to be done. If you want Star Wars to be a viable, successful franchise going forward, it can't rely on the same formula over and over and over again. It has to adapt and evolve. Rian Johnson is forcing that evolution in a brilliant way, and I commend him for it. So overall, my thoughts about The Last Jedi, I really enjoyed the film. I don't have that many complaints. The Leia Superman scene, like I said, and that joke at the beginning were my two major complaints. Another kind of a on the fence complaint was Luke Skywalker throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder. It didn't bother me too much, but that was kind of like the Leia thing. I don't mind him discarding the saber. It was just the way he did it felt like a joke, but I'm on the fence with that. I'm not really sure how to feel about that. I'm kind of leaning towards not liking it, but I don't know. I'm iffy on that one, but that was another thing, minor thing that didn't really resonate with me. But again, these issues didn't ruin the film for me. I really enjoyed it. It's a great film. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this film? I know it's a very divisive topic. I mean, Star Wars fans are going nuts online over this. But what are your thoughts? Did you love the movie? Did you hate the movie? Are you kind of iffy about it? Are you going to have to see it again to really get a feel for how you feel about it? So what are your thoughts on this? Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And as always, may the Force be with you.